Welcome to Jersey Reads the Classics, an audiobook podcast delving into the finest works of our literary masters. Unfortunately, it's read by this woman.
What the hell? Who cares? Let's go on an adventure.
Hello, and welcome back to Jersey Reads the Classics with your host, me, Rosie D. Candia. So, we are getting into some really good, juicy stuff because we don't have that many more chapters to go, my friends. We have like 3 more chapters, okay? So, without any further ado, let's get back to Peter Pan, Chapter 15, Hook or Me This Time. Odd things happen to all of us on our way through life without our noticing for a time that they have happened. Thus, to take an instance, we suddenly discover that we have been deaf in one ear for we don't know how long, but say half an hour. That's never happened to me. I think, well, sometimes you might have like the white noise, but whatever. Now, such an experience had come that night to Peter. When last we saw him, he was stealing across the island with one finger to his lips and his dagger at the ready. He had seen the crocodile pass by without noticing anything peculiar about it. But by and by, he remembered that it had not been ticking. At first, he thought this eerie, but soon concluded rightly that the clock had run down. Perfect timing. You get it? Perfect timing. There I go with the stupid puns. I know everybody hates my puns except me. Without giving a thought to what might be the feelings of a fellow creature thus abruptly deprived of its closest companion, Peter began to consider how he could turn the catastrophe to his own use. This kid is a smart bastard. And he decided to tick so that wild beasts should believe he was the crocodile and let him pass unmolested. Such a smart little bastard. He ticked superbly, but with one unforeseen result. The crocodile was among those who heard the sound and had followed him, though whether with the purpose of regaining what it had lost, or merely as a friend under the belief that it was again ticking itself, will never be certainly known, for, like slaves to a fixed idea, it was a stupid beast. But was it that stupid? Because the crocodile knows it's eaten Hook's hand and is tasting for Hook. Why doesn't he just find another human being to eat? He's not. He still wants Hook's meat. So what that tells me is the crocodile's not as stupid as we think. Okay? Peter reached the shore without mishap and went straight on, his legs encountering the water as if quite unaware that they had entered a new element. Thus, many animals passed from land to water, but no other human of whom I know. As he swam, he had but one thought. Hook or me this time. Ooh, we're gonna have a rumble. It's gonna be the fight of fights. It's like Rocky versus, oh my God, I loved, who did he fight in the first one? Dun, 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 dun. It's like Rocky versus, I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember the guy. Because I loved Rocky the movie, but it's been so long. I don't think I've seen it since the 70s. But anyway, let's move on. But the guy who played his nemesis, handsome actor. All right, I can't remember his name either. That tells you something. He had ticked so long that he now went on ticking without knowing that he was doing it. Had he known, he would have stopped, for to board the brig by help of the tick, though an ingenious idea, had not occurred to him. Okay. Sometimes you get in that way, you know how you get into like when people hum, that does drive me nuts. They just keep humming while you're whistling and you just don't even know you're doing it. Oh, slapping your lips when you eat, that annoys me. Please don't chew food with your mouth open. It's disgusting. On the contrary, he thought he had scaled his side as noiseless as a mouse, and he was amazed to see the pirates cowering from him, with Hook in their midst as abject as if he had heard the crocodile. The crocodile! No sooner did Peter remember it than he heard the ticking. At first, he thought the sound did come from the crocodile, and he looked behind him swiftly. Then he realized he was doing it himself, and in a flash, he understood the situation. How clever of me, he thought at once. There is his cockiness, and signed to the boys not to burst into applause. It was at this moment that Ed Tint, the quartermaster, emerged from the forecastle and came along the deck. Now, reader, time what happens by your watch. Peter struck true and deep. John clapped his hands on the ill-fated pirate's mouth to stifle the dying groan. He fell forward. 4 boys caught him to prevent the thud. Peter gave the signal, and then the carrion was cast overboard. There was a splash, and then silence. How long has it taken? 1 slightly had begun to count. None too soon, Peter, every inch of him on tiptoe, vanished into the cabin, for more than one pirate was screwing up his courage to look round. They could hear each other's distressing breathing now, which showed them that the more terrible sound had passed. It's gone, Captain Smee said, wiping off his spectacles. All still again. Slowly Hook let his head emerge from his ruff and listened so intently that he could have caught the echo of the tick. There was not a sound, and he drew himself up firmly to his full height. Then here's to Johnny Plank, he cried brazenly, hating the boys more than ever because they had seen him unbend. He broke into the villainous ditty. Yeah, he's trying to overcompensate for the fact they all saw him be a wuss and that a crocodile's ticking got him all scared. We all, it's like having an Achilles heel. We all got that one thing that scares the shit out of us. For some in the big, the big people, they got a secret that scares the shit out of them, right? Same thing with here. Well, let's hear his ditty. Yo ho, the frisky plank, you walks along it so, till it goes down and you goes down to Davy Jones below. To terrorize the prisoners the more, though, with a certain loss of dignity, he danced along an imaginary plank, grimacing at them as he sang, and when he finished he cried, "Do you want a touch of the cat before you walk the plank?" At that they fell on their knees. "No, no," they cried, so piteously that every pirate smiled. "Fetch the cat, Jukes," said Hook. "It's in the cabin." Who's in the cabin? We know who's in the cabin, Peter Pan. The cabin? Peter was in the cabin. The children gazed at each other. "Aye, aye," said Jukes blithely, and he strode into the cabin. They followed him with their eyes. They scarce knew that Hook had resumed his song, his dogs joining in with him. Yo ho, the scratching cat, its tails are 9, you know, and when they're rid upon your back. What was the last line will never be known, for of a sudden the song was stayed by a dreadful screech from the cabin. It wailed through the ship and died away. Then was heard a crowing sound which was well understood by the boys, but to the pirates was almost more eerie than the screech. So they don't know that Peter crows. I thought they knew that Peter crows, because doesn't he crow whenever he has some sort of windfall? Okay, well, right now they're in fear mode, so they're not thinking correctly. "What was that?" cried Hook. "Two," said Slightly solemnly. The Italian Checo hesitated for a moment and then swung into the cabin. He tottered out, haggard. "What's the matter with Bill Jukes, you dog?" hissed Hook, towering over him. "The matter with him is he's dead. Stabbed," replied Checo in a hollow voice. "Bill Jukes dead?" cried the startled pirates. "The cabin's as black as a pit," Checo said, almost gibbering. "But there is something terrible in there, the thing you heard crowing." The exultation of the boys, the lowering looks of the pirates, both were seen by Hook. "Checo," he said in his most steely voice, "go back and fetch me out that doodle-doo." Checo, bravest of the brave, cowered before his captain, crying, "No, no," but Hook was purring to his claw. "Did you say you would go, Checo?" he said musingly. Checo went, first flinging his arms despairingly. There was no more singing. All listened now, and again came a deep screech and a crow. No one spoke except Slightly. "3," he said. Hook rallied his dogs with a gesture. "'Sdeath and odds fish," he thundered. "Who is to bring me that doodle-doo?" "Wait till Checo comes out," growled Starkey, and the others took up the cry. "I think I heard you volunteer, Starkey," said Hook, purring again. "No, by thunder!" Starkey cried. "My Hook thinks you did," said Hook, crossing to him. "I wonder if it would not be advisable, Starkey, to humor the Hook." "I'll swing before I go in there," replied Starkey doggedly, and again he had the support of the crew. "Is this mutiny?" asked Hook more pleasantly than ever. "Starkey's ringleader?" "Captain, mercy!" Starkey whimpered, all of a tremble now. "Shake hands, Starkey," said Hook, proffering his claw. Starkey looked round for help, but all deserted him. As he backed up, Hook advanced, and now the red spark was in his eye. You know what that means. He's seeing red. With a despairing scream, the pirate leapt upon Long Tom, remember the cannon, and precipitated himself into the sea. "4," said Slightly. "And now," Hook said courteously, "did any other gentleman say mutiny?" Seizing a lantern and raising his claw with a menacing gesture, "I'll bring out that doodle-doo myself," he said, and sped into the cabin. 5, how slightly long to say it. He wetted his lips to be ready, but Hook came staggering out without his lantern. Something blew out the light, he said a little unsteadily. Something, echoed Mullins. What of Jekko? Demanded Noodler. He's as dead as Juke, said Hook shortly. His reluctance to return to the cabin impressed them all unfavorably. And the mutinous sounds again broke forth. All pirates are superstitious, and Cookson cried, They do say the surest sign a ship's accursed is when there's one on board more than can be accounted for. Of course, they don't know it's Peter Pan. I've heard, muttered Mullins. He always boards the pirate craft last. Had he a tail, Captain? They say, said another, looking viciously at Hook, that when he comes, it's in the likeness of the wickedest man aboard. Oh, they're all turning on him. There's no code of ethics with these motherfuckers. They're pirates to the core. They're just not nice people. They're even turning on Hook. Not to say he doesn't deserve it, but the point is this. He's, been their leader for so long, and suddenly the dogs are turning. You see, you never know. You can never trust people. Had he a hook, Captain? Asked Cookson insolently, and one after another took up the cry. The ship's doomed. At this the children could not resist raising a cheer. Hook had well nigh forgotten his prisoners, but as he swung round on them, now his face lit up again. Lads, he cried to his crew, now here's a notion. Open the cabin door and drive them in. Let them fight the doodle-doo for their lives. If they kill him, we're so much the better. If he kills them, we're none the worse. Smart. The last time his dogs admired Hook, and devotedly they did his bidding. The boys, pretending to struggle, were pushed into the cabin, and the door was closed on them. Now listen, cried Hook, and all listened. But not one dared to face the door. Yes, one, Wendy, who all this time had been bound to the mast. It was for neither a scream nor a crow that she was watching. It was for the reappearance of Peter, because Wendy had faith and trust. She knows, that bitch knows, her mother's intuition. She had not long to wait. In the cabin he had found the thing for which he had gone in search, the key that would free the children of the manacles, and now they all stole forth, armed with such weapons as they could find. First signing them to hide, Peter cut Wendy's bonds, and then nothing could have been easier than for them all to fly off together. But one thing barred the way, an oath, Hook or me this time. So when he had freed Wendy, he whispered for her to conceal herself with the others, and himself took her place by the mast, her cloak around him so that he should pass for her. Then he took a great breath and crowed. To the pirates, it was a voice crying that all the boys lay slain in the cabin, and they were panic-stricken. Hook tried to hearten them, but like the dogs he had made them, they showed him their fangs, and he knew that if he took his eyes off them now, they would leap at him. Lads, he said, ready to cajole or strike as need be, but never quailing for an instant, I thought it out. There's a Jonah aboard. Aye, they snarled, a man with a hook. No, lads, no, it's the girl. Never was luck on a pirate ship with a woman on board. We'll right the ship when she's gone. Now he's throwing Wendy under the bus, or throwing her under the ship, you know what I mean? Wuss. Some of them remembered that this had been a saying of Flint's. It's worth trying, they said doubtfully. Fling the girl overboard, cried Hook, and they made a rush at the figure in the cloak. There's none can save you now, Missy, Mullins hissed jeeringly. There's one, replied the figure. Who's that? Peter Pan the Avenger, came the terrible answer, and as he spoke, Peter flung off his cloak. Then they all knew who 'twas that had been undoing them in the cabin, and twice Hook essayed to speak, and twice he failed. In that frightful moment, I think his fierce heart broke. Oh! At last he cried, cleave him to the brisket, but without conviction. Down, boys, and at them! Peter's voice rang out, and in another moment the clash of arms was resounding through the ship. Had the pirates kept together, it is certain that they would have won. But the onset came when they were still unstrung, and they ran hither and thither, striking wildly, each thinking himself the last survivor of the crew. So basically, in a time of need, of when they have to have their heads together and know how to friggin' fight, these pirates don't even know how to fight. Is that a bitch or what? They knew how to be like jackwads and prey upon the poor natives, but now they don't know how to fight a bunch of little boys. See, they're not smart, and they're also not in their right mind because they're in fear. See what happens with fear? It makes you do things that you don't normally want to do. You got to keep your head straight. You got to keep your head up. Okay. Who doesn't love Tupac? I love Tupac. Okay. Oh my God. Where was I? Man to man, they were the stronger, but they fought on the defensive only, which enabled the boys to hunt in pairs and choose their quarry. Some of the miscreants leapt into the sea. Of course, they were cowards. Others hid in dark recesses, where they were found by Slightly, who did not fight, but ran about with a lantern, which he flashed in their faces, so that they were half blinded and fell as an easy prey to the reeking swords of the other boys. Smart, right? Slightly smart. They actually have a game plan. These kids know how to fight. It doesn't make a difference. Sounds fair to me. They know when it comes down to it, they know how to rumble. Okay, I want these kids on my team. That's all I'm gonna say. There was little sound to be heard but the clang of weapons, an occasional screech or splash, and Slightly, monotonously counting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think all were gone when a group of savage boys surrounded Hook, who seemed to have a charmed life as he kept them at bay in that circle of fire. They had done for his dogs, but this man alone seemed to be a match for them all. Again and again they closed upon him, and again he hewed a clear space. He had lifted up one boy with his hook and was using him as a buckler when another, who had just passed his sword through Mullins, sprang into the fray. "Put up your swords, boys," cried the newcomer. "This man is mine." "Hello." Then suddenly Hook found himself face to face with Peter. The others drew back and formed a ring around them. For long the two enemies looked at one another, Hook shuddering slightly, and Peter with a strange smile upon his face. I'm sure Hook is thinking, that little cocky boy with a smile on his face. It's like they're just like fetting each other out. It's like going around the ring, right? Deciding how you're going to punch the motherfucker in the face. Anyway, "So, Pan," said Hook at last, "this is all you're doing." "Aye, James Hook," came the stern answer. "It is all my doing." "Proud and insolent youth," said Hook, "prepare to meet thy doom." "Dark and sinister man," Peter answered, "have at thee." Without more words they fell to, and for a space there was no advantage to either blade. Peter was a superb swordsman, and parried with dazzling rapidity. Ever and anon he followed up a feint with a lunge that got past his foe's defense, but his shoulder reached to him in ill stead, and he could not drive the steel home. Hook, scarcely his inferior in brilliancy, but not quite so nimble in wrist-play, forced him back by the weight of his onset, hoping suddenly to end all with a favorite thrust, taught him long ago by barbecue at Rio. But to his astonishment, he found this thrust turned aside again and again. Then he sought to close and give the quietus with his iron hook, which all this time had been pawing in the air. But Peter doubled under it and, lunging fiercely, pierced him in the ribs. At the sight of his own blood, whose peculiar color, you remember, was offensive to him, the sword fell from Hook's hand, and he was at Peter's mercy. "Now!" cried all the boys. But with a magnificent gesture, Peter invited his opponent to pick up the sword. You see, Peter, he's smart. He knows how to play fair. He's a good kid, even if he's cocky. But he's not really cocky. He's just confident, and he's standing in his truth and authenticity. And look at him. He's even giving Hook, who's never been fair. But he forgets that Hook is unfair. But you know what? Peter's going to win, right? Of course. Hook did so instantly, but with a tragic feeling that Peter was showing good form. You know, Hook can't stand that. Hitherto, he had thought it was some fiend fighting him, but darker suspicions assailed him now. "Pan, who and what art thou?" he cried huskily. "I'm youth. I'm joy," Peter answered at a venture. "I'm a little bird that has broken out of the egg." This, of course, was nonsense, but it was proof to the unhappy Hook that Peter did not know in the least who or what he was, which is the very pinnacle of good form. "Hello." "Tut!" again he cried despairingly. He fought now like a human flail, and every sweep of the terrible sword would have severed in twain any man or boy who obstructed it. But Peter fluttered round him as if the very wind had made him bloom out of the danger zone, and again he darted in and pricked. Hook was fighting now without hope. That passionate breast no longer asked for life, but for one boon it craved, to see Peter show bad form before it was cold forever. Abandoning the fight, he rushed into the powder magazine and fired it. In 2 minutes, he cried, the ship will be blown to pieces. Now, he thought, true form will show. But Peter issued from the powder magazine with the shell in his hands and calmly flung it overboard. This kid knows how to prepare for war. He knows how to do a fight. Peter Pan, you are the man. Pan's the man. Pan's the man. Hey, Pan's the man. Okay, where was I? I mean, this has got me going up and down. Oh my God. Oh my God. What sort of form was Hook himself showing? Misguided man though he was, we may be glad, without sympathizing with him, that in the end he was true to the traditions of his race. The other boys were flying around him now, flouting, scornful, and he staggered about the deck, striking up at them impotently. His mind was no longer with them. He was slouching in the playing fields of long ago, of being sent up for good, or watching the war game from a famous wall. And his shoes were right, and his waistcoat was right, and his tie was right, and his socks were right. James Hook, though not wholly an heroic figure, farewell, for we have come to his last moments. Seeing Peter slowly advancing upon him through the air with dagger poised, he sprang upon the bulwarks to cast himself into the sea. He did not know that the crocodile was waiting for him, for we purposely stopped the clock that this knowledge might be spared him, a little mark of respect from us at the end. It just seems also that Hook is having the come to Jesus moment and is seeing his life flash before his eyes. Do we realize that? He's about to die and he knows it, because he knows he can't be Peter and he's just done for. His spirit is done and he's seeing himself the day he see for him when he was young at that famous school. So maybe your life does play before you die. Oh my God. He had one last triumph, which I think we need not grudge him. As he stood on the bulwark, looking over his shoulder at Peter gliding through the air, he invited him with a gesture to use his foot. It made Peter kick instead of stab. At last, Hook had got the boon for which he craved. Bad form, he cried jeeringly, and went content to the crocodile. Thus perished James Hook. R.I.P. James Hook. Oh, really, not in peace. 17, slightly sang out, but he was not quite correct in his figures. 15 paid the penalty for their crimes that night, but 2 reached the shore, Starkey to be captured by the Redskins, who made him nurse for all their papooses, a melancholy come down for a pirate, and Smee, who henceforth wandered about the world in his spectacles, making a precarious living by saying he was the only man that Jas Hook had feared. So maybe Smee wasn't that dumb after all. We all thought he was simple, that Smee. Maybe he was cunning this whole time. It's those quiet, little frigid ones you gotta be careful, because they're always thinking. Wendy, of course, had stood by taking no part in the fight, though watching Peter with glistening eyes. But now that all was over, she became prominent again. She praised them equally and shuddered delightfully when Michael showed her the place where he had killed one. And then she took them into Hook's cabin and pointed to his watch, which was hanging on a nail. It said 1:30. The lateness of the hour was almost the biggest thing of all. She got them to bed in the pirates' bunks pretty quickly, you may be sure, all but Peter, who strutted up and down on the deck until at last he fell asleep by the side of Long Tom. He had one of his dreams that night and cried in his sleep for a long time, and Wendy held him tight. Wow. Whoa, kids. We only got 2 more chapters. Well, no more of Jas Hook. No more of the pirates. And what have we learned? That being a dick deep down hides all those childhood fears that you never dealt with, and that it's all a facade, and being mean and all that is just a covering for the fact that you're a whimpering child and you just have no confidence. That's what that teaches me, okay? Well, even though Hook got what he deserved, you know what? It does sadden me because I've gotten a fondness for Hook. Isn't Isn't that always the case? There's always the case. There's always that bad boy that you have something for. Anyway, I digress. Well, I just want to get into the woo-woo because let's talk about this, right? Here we got basically the fight of good and evil. Now, is Hook really evil? I wonder. Is there inherent evil? Sometimes there is. I don't think Hook is definitely evil because Hook is grappling with his morality. We talked about this in another episode. He's constantly weighing the good form, bad form, and here he is at the point where he can't even handle when someone is in good form because it's not mirroring him. He admires it and is so envious of it, and it makes him pissed off, like Peter's cockiness. And we talked about that a couple of chapters ago. It's just that, let's think about the times where we have fluffed our breasts. You know, we put ourselves like birds. You know, you walk around like, oh, yeah, I've got this, I've got this. But underneath it, there's this knowingness that you really don't got this. You know what I mean? It's like built on it's a foundation of sand instead of a foundation of stone. And I think what's really important for all of us to think about is the fact of our belief in ourselves and the qualities and stuff that we talked about earlier, and really, truly looking back and delving into what took away those qualities from you, and maybe the things that trigger you that you don't want to look at. But that's the point. We got to start noticing, and we've got to start excavating the crap that no longer serves us, my friends. And the thing with Hook, as an example, is we don't know his crap from his past, and we don't need to. But he's going back to the days of yore, when he was in his prime, his youth, and obviously he knew what good form was, and he was probably living in his truth. And then whatever happened that steered him the wrong way, right, to be on the pirate ship. But just in our own lives, either we can look at ourselves or examples of people we know that what was the big event that made us turn into something that maybe at one point we didn't like, or we didn't honor ourselves truthfully. And I would encourage you, if you want to write it down in your journal. If not, it's okay. And I know this is not easy work. It never is. But it's like finding the things that triggered certain behaviors in your life that you no longer want to have. Because we all have patterns. We have old patterns that don't serve us. They served us at one point because, remember, when things happen to us that are traumatic, the ego protects us. And we either forget or we develop a pattern to protect ourselves. Now, for example, I was bullied as a kid because of my talent, so I doused my light. But also, I felt like people couldn't be loyal to me, and if I felt like a friend because I had friends betray me or whatever, it's not the point. So then lifelong would be if one friend did something to me and it wasn't even that big, I'd be like, well, they're not loyal. And that just was all my youth. It was shit in my youth that I didn't deal with, to say, whoa, why am I believing that if a friend just disappoints me, suddenly they're not loyal? Right? And that's a trigger. And then you just lose friendships, you ghost friends, you just get rid of them, because instead of just saying to them, you know, you really disappointed me with that, or just saying like, you know what, it wasn't that big of a deal. Why am I making a big deal? What is rubbing me the wrong way? That's the point, my friends. I'd like to encourage you right now, and this is not easy because this is about excavating the shit, the darkness, the crap that's holding you back. And it's never easy because you got to step into that crap. You got to excavate. It's like that zit that's got the pus, even though you're not supposed to pick it, is this big zit, and it's got pus, it's got the head, and it's like they're like, bathe it, whatever, you have to go to the dermatologist and they'll properly pick it, but it's this big head, right, of pus. And then once it rusts, all the crap comes out, and then it heals. It's the same thing with you doing the spiritual work and finding the things in your life that have triggered you from childhood, that you're behaving in a way that no longer serves you, whether it's cutting people off, whether you're putting walls up, can't be vulnerable, you don't want to show your true self to people because you don't have confidence. And that's where I'm going to encourage you this week, to really think about the things that have triggered you. And how you can release it is a way to first acknowledge it, throw light and love on it, forgive yourself, because you're blaming yourself deep down somewhere for acting that way or receiving that behavior, which had nothing to do with you. Forgive those that have done it. And now, when things come up that are similar to that situation, it's not going to be exact. Think about how you can react in a different way, because we don't want to keep doing patterns that no longer serve us. And that's the point of growth, my friends. The more that you chip away at the things that have triggered you, right? And the more you really release it, what happens is that you find more happiness, you find more inner peace, you find joy, you find serenity, and then you level up in life. And then you find more self-love, more self-worth, and then you find the confidence to go after your dreams, big or small, or dream new dreams, or just stand in your power. And that's what we've come here to do, to shine our light and stand in our power and be authentic and true to who we are and be our unique selves. And once we show that to the world mirrors that back to us, and we call that into our beingness. And I think it's really important for each and every one of us to do this work. It is not easy. I mean that. And you have to give yourself a lot of compassion and empathy for it. But I will tell you this, when you figure out the things that have triggered you and what patterns don't serve you, and release them with light and love and approach them in a different way, you will see that your life will get better. It's always darkest before the dawn. And I know none of this work is easy, but it will truly transform you as a person and your life. And you'll just come out of it thinking, whoa, I had no way of seeing that. Because we hold on to things that we feel are comfortable. We don't like to grow. You know why? Because we know how to grow out of your comfort zone. That's it. Being comfortable, it's what we know. It's something I'm used to, so that's it. But at the end of the day, that is not how you grow, and you came here to grow. And I want you to grow as I want myself to grow. And each and every day, I look at the things that I have to face that have triggered me. And I've done a lot of shedding over the past 6 months. It's not been easy, let me tell you, but I've done a lot of work on it, and a lot of self-forgiveness, and a lot of forgiveness on those I thought hurt me, but they also served a purpose, because everything that has happened, as we say, to us, really happened for us. We grew from it we grow from it if we choose to look at it as a learning, as a lesson, and not as something that's happened to me. So take that lesson and see it as a blessing, or a blessing. Hello. So I'm going to encourage you, if you need to write it out, please write it out, or just think about the things and the patterns that you would like to change in your life, and think back, what is the trigger of this? Then pour some light and love into it. Excavate it. Forgive yourself. Forgive those that have hurt you. Forgive it all. Release it. And then just, allow yourself to heal. Heal yourself and love yourself. Take care of yourself. And know that you are worthy and enough for all this wonderful healing. Okay, my friends. I didn't know Peter Pan is dark. You know what? We're going to dark places. Look at that. We are going to dark places. I'm sure there is so much more I can go on about that chapter, but at this point, I think the things we just discussed was deep enough for you to chomp on that and take in and ingest. And I am sending you so much love, so much light, peace, and blessings, and compassion, and empathy, knowing that thank you for joining me on this journey of life and journey of reading Peter Pan. And I know that this too shall pass, whatever all of us are going through, and that out of it we shall all be a new person, a better people, a better humanity, and let's all be there for one another, and let's serve ourselves first in our highest good. When I say serve ourselves, being our best selves, so that we can serve the highest good of all, because it's collective. Remember, be the change you want to see in the world. You control how you portray yourself to the world, and you control what you're going to fix, what you're going to heal. So, sending you healing, light, and love. Many blessings. Namaste. Until we meet again. I think that's from the Gong Show. Gene the Dancing Machine. I think that's it. People, let me tell you about my best friend. I'm sure I've sung that too. That's The Courtship of Eddie's Father. That was with Bill Bixby, who played The Incredible Hulk. Love both those shows. Love both those shows. I know. Okay, I'm babbling.